What's happening, people? Back with another reaction, back with some more Tori Amos, and we're returning to the 1998 album From the Choirgirl Hotel. Thank you again to Nigel. And the next tune, make sure I have this right. Yeah, it's called Black Dove January, and January is in a parenthetical. So, yeah, I mean, doves you typically think of as being white, so there's a bit of an expectation defying description, and then January, a month designation, which I don't know, maybe there's some direct connection there, maybe there's some cultural or mythological connection between a black dove and January, but if there is, I'm not familiar with it. So even if I was even if I did have a sense of the essence of this title, I would still expect it to be a narrative and or scene painting that exceeds the possibilities to speculate about. And I say that because Tori's songwriting has proven to be very florid and poetic and at times opaque. So let's just see what I can catch on a first listen. This is Tori Amos. The song is Black Dove January, and it's the second tune from her 1998 album From the Choirgirl Hotel, which is not an easy phrase to say.
She was a January girl. She never let on how insane
What a perfectly Tori Amos vocal to end that song with. That's an incredible song. The sonics are a bit two-sided. A lot of the track, and certainly the first opening minute or minute and a half of the tune, is like ambient art pop, sort of not down tempo, but very stripped down and acoustic sounding, the piano and Tori's vocals. I will say this track had some more like metallic and otherwise atypical percussion in it. That did stand out a bit to me. But then suddenly it explodes in this energetic flourish, and the piano playing gets a bit more forte and intense, and there was this release of energy that really surprised me. And I have to say, one thing that also stood out is that lyrically and by extension vocally, there were a lot of repetitions, which was it By the Woods? I think it was By the Woods, and then On the Other Side of the Galaxy, and there were a couple other lines. There's one where I was like, is she saying Texas? I'm not sure. But there were like 4 or 5 different lines over the course of the tune, especially the two that I just mentioned specifically, that she would give in succession again and again and again. There was a repetition, a use of these lines as like refrains. And so I don't quite know what to make of it. Obviously, if we're saying On the Other Side of the Galaxy, there's a bit reality plus, not necessarily sci-fi per se, but 100,000 light years away, we don't know what's happening there, or at least what's happening there we can only see 100,000 years after it's happened. So I'm imagining it's more poetic, more conceptual. And then By the Woods, if I'm hearing that correctly, and I was unsure of that because of the way she would sort of roll the syllables into each other, but that's more immediate and terrestrial and visual. But as to what that means and how it all ties together, and she did repeat the phrase Black Dove, I believe. I don't remember hearing January, not clearly anyway. So yeah, it's one I'll have to digest bit by bit, and obviously look for any insights people may have. But even then, I would expect there to be some interpretive freedom, or the ability to see lines in different ways, which I've talked about in different deep dives, and like Duran Duran I always think about, where like lyrics can sketch something out, but there's enough ambiguity or opacity that it allows people to kind of take a view of it that is unique to their own brain and their own interpretation. So ultimately, I very much enjoyed this one. Again, that first burst of energy really took me by surprise, and in a very good way. So yeah, like an instant favorite from Tori. Wow, like difficult syllables abound. In any case, thank you again to Nigel. Let me know what you think, and I will see you next time. Peace.